A very good evening to everyone. I am Meena Shah and I welcome you to our Enlightening Conversations. So who am I? I am an educator with many years in education, and I am also the founder of a very child-friendly portal called Starchild Education and Learning. What is the purpose of Enlightening Conversations? Well, I believe that we all have knowledge, which of course benefits us. However, the collective knowledge of many would benefit all, and thus we invite educators from all the fields of knowledge and education to come and share with us their knowledge so that it benefits everyone. So today we invite Dr. Sakshi Pai. I am just inviting her and she will be joining us. She should be joining us shortly. And if you are an educator or anyone who is, part of the field of education and child development, I invite you to join us and share your knowledge too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Sakshi, for joining us today. A very, very warm welcome to you.
Thank you.
I cannot see you as yet. The video is just going round and round.
Okay.
I guess it will happen in a while. So
are you able to hear me though?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, fine. It's the voice that going across matters, I think.
Okay, now you're there. Yeah, you are there.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Great. Hi.
Yes, hi, and once again a very, very warm welcome. Let me introduce you to everyone. I'm sure that many of your students were joining in and they already know you. However, let me still introduce you for the rest of the people. So Dr. Sakshi Pai is an educator. She is an IB and IG educator.
Hi, Maurice.
She's conversant with the education and standard expectations and processes of academic systems. So whether it be management studies or state board or ICSC or CBSC or even the international boards, she is well versed with them. She has been a part of the teaching and administrative processes of all the boards, and she believes that learners are at the core of this process, and how they handle assessment, the assessment process is the key to success. And I totally agree with you, ma'am. And today she's going to talk about the report card race. Now, this is something which I have always believed in, as in that should we run after marks or should we run after knowledge? What should be the race?
There's a certain phase where we run after marks, and I think that is at the initial part of it. And those marks are acquired through knowledge. Eventually, it becomes a knowledge-based life because people will be assessing you based on your competency or the way you're able to work and execute. But anything that you deliver eventually in your life is based on the knowledge acquired when you're being assessed initially. So initially, a race for marks becomes something that you can't get away with, and something is necessary to push you to a certain level of excellence or acquisition of knowledge. So I think initial part of the race does center around marks or being benchmarked according to certain systems. So.
Correct. So which curriculum boards have you taught, ma'am, and what kind of exams have you encountered?
Oh God, I think all the curriculum boards, state board across, I think whatever, I've been through the pre-primary section as well of every board. I have encountered CBSE board, ICSC board, I've worked with the ISB. In the international curriculum, I've worked with Checkpoint and IGCSE, ASNA levels. I have also worked with the PYP, MYP, as well as the IB board. I have also worked with management studies. I have worked with call centers, so that's the career orientation part of it. I have taught HRM, which is for the Mumbai University curriculum in an engineering college. That was for 6 years. I have taught finance planners at ICOFP, so it's a wide array. And the number of assessments, the number of assessments is crazier. Every kind of assessment. Actually, India goes through, every year India will go through 50 competitive exams and almost 300 different kind of exams. That's what India grid works upon. Leave alone the external universities taking up assessments. But India alone through a year will go through 350 different processes of assessment. And they can be MCQs, they can be short and long answer essay questions, they can be competency based, they can be case study based. They are also sometimes open book test and closed book test. And moment people say open book, people have a very different understanding of open book test in India, but that's a different case for assessing knowledge. But then there are these kind of tests. And then now we have added this whole, like online assessment was a part earlier. But now it has filtered down to a great extent through interior India as well. So now we have this online, offline assessment of this thing.
Okay, okay. So what is the key to assessment across various boards, whether it is national or, international? What is the key to this, and, how does it differ from board to board?
Actually, when I look at the national curriculum boards, maybe CBSE or ICSE, they are assessment oriented. And if I look at the international curriculum board, where ICSE filters somewhere in between, and then we have the IG and the IB boards, and eventually we have this. But on the state board side or the national curriculum based, or if I look at degree college or anything, they're very assessment oriented. And the other boards are very diagnostic in nature. Assessment is very diagnostic in nature, and remediation is involved very strongly in non-national boards. But when I come to the central board, CBSE, or when I come to state board as an understanding, when I come to college exams, we find them to be repetitive, but they are repetitive simply for the fact that there is no remediation or no change after the assessment has happened, no change to the standards that have been assessed earlier. And they are very assessment oriented. They just want a certain amount of marks to be registered, and then the next batch moves on. So that's where the block is in the difference in the kind of assessments that we're encountering.
Right. I understand what you are saying. And what about the kind of questions? As in, see, I've been a teacher in schools, and I have taught again CBSE and ICSE, and I see that the questioning also is different. Do you agree with that? And can you point out the difference?
Oh yes. Absolutely. Questioning is very, it's like chalk and cheese difference sometimes, I feel. They will not go beyond a certain given syllabus or a book or a certain amount of information provided in a certain page 1 to 200, that textbook which has been given to you in a national curriculum. But whereas for an international curriculum, it changes. There is a lot to be taken in. There is a concept of reference books, which eventually becomes focus in senior college or otherwise. So I think that the questioning pattern changes. Now, but there's a lot of change coming up. NEP is also coming up. CBSE has already started the shift, and they have started 30% competency-based exams, competency-based questions. So the questions are now going to be case study-based, or they will give some live example, and then they will assess people. But as yet, we are still in a very nascent stage. And if it comes to ICSE, state board, college exams, or any other national curriculum oriented exams, still the questions are going to be restricted from a certain number of things that are there. There is not a broad array of generalized questions or application based, competency based questions. But IB and IGCSE, they would differ. International college sections would differ. Again, your exams, competitive exams like IELTS or GRE, GMAT, their questions again differ completely. Because there the reference book concept sets in. And we are still not used to the concept of reference books in the other books.
Yes, I understand. Yeah. So, because today, of course, there are more and more people going in for the international board because they see the value of it, they understand the value of it, and that is why I guess they are going in for it. So, when we look at even formative and summative assessments, so what is the difference between them? I mean, many parents, don't understand what is the formative assessment, what is the summative. So maybe if we could, look at that too.
Yes, absolutely. A formative assessment, is step-by-step assessment of every topic that is going to be taught through a quarter or through 6 months or something like that. So it's piecemealing the whole thing. But a summative assessment is taking a comprehensive understanding of everything that was taught across a month or a 6-month period, whenever the assessment comes up. So formatives are smaller assessment, which will eventually run up to a larger test which is conducted. Now, formative is for learning and summative is of learning. That's the big difference that we need to understand. Formative is for learning everything. So whatever has been learned, that will be eventually assessed. So your examination, assessment of whatever you have learned is assessment of learning, and that is summative. And assessment for learning for the summative, that's the formative part of it. So I take baby steps and learn steadily. I'm tested at every phase, and eventually I give a bigger summative exam. So that's the understanding. So in generic language, whatever is considered as the what you say semester exam and whatever is considered as the final exam, that's the summative. And then you have these internals, unit tests, and internal interim assessments, and all those. Those are formative, or class tests for that matter. A simple oral exam or a quiz or a crossword, anything. Those are formatives. Yes.
Right. And so for the parent, I mean, how do I put this? If a child does not do well in the formatives, they should study that particular portion again, or look at it again, so that they are prepared for the summative. Correct?
Absolutely, yes. That's the perfect understanding for the formative exam. And that is also, a reflection for the teacher that if a certain set of students have not done well in a certain formative, she needs to revise the topic again or pick it up again and have it rectified or taught better so that they can do better in the summatives and have better understanding of the topic. So formative has reflection, which is two ways. It's also for the teacher as well as for the student. But a summative eventually is just a reflection for the student.
Correct. Yes,
Yes.
so I think that makes it quite clear.
Yes.
And so the next question is, I'm sorry, the focus is always on, I mean, as we spoke earlier, the grades and marks. So how would we, I mean, again, I guess we're discussing the same thing again, right? That in the end, it is the marks only, but through the marks you get the knowledge. Would you, I mean, I'm probably wording it wrongly, not correctly.
No, anything. Eventually, finally, it comes to an understanding that I need a certain amount of marks to be at a certain understanding. What I like to stress upon is that when I say I want marks, I need to understand that I need a certain amount of marks as per my competency and level. The problem with the whole system is that everybody wants to be at 90%. The whole focus or the refocus should be the fact that I am at a 70 to 75% grade and I should not slip below that. Marks should be helpful for benchmarking and understanding a competency level and putting a person at that certain level. So, at that certain point, it becomes necessary to look at percentile and percentage. But I prefer going the percentage way because it's an easier thing for people to understand. But if I know that I relatively keep on being at a 70 to 75% grade, I need to either better and come to a 80 and 85 or not slip below where I am. Marks is always going to be the race, but race for a fact as to where your competency is. So, they'll tell that cliche story every time that you make a fish climb a tree and then you make whatever they give that story every time. That story is relevant. We can't reject that story because eventually everybody is going to give the same exam. And in life also, we are also all going to give the same exam. How well you did as a mother, how well you did as a father. Like the same non-examination tests are on for us all our life. Somewhere we are writing on a piece of paper and somewhere we are not. But the success criteria would depend that if I am at a certain percentage, I need to stick to that certain percent and not slip below it and keep on getting better at it. That is why marks as a race is, yes, compulsory. We have to take part in it. And without those marks, how would you ever know what have you done through the whole thing? People are very fast at rejecting the concept of marks. If they say take grades, but where are the grades coming from? The grades are also sourced from a certain, it's a broad grid, a polar understanding, like a bell jar curve understanding or something. So these are the marks and these are the grades. Who got A grade? People who scored between 70 to 80. So eventually it's the marking system. So why are we rejecting some very good system which is basic to understanding where I am? Out of 10, how did I score? And what was my value? I need to understand that. Eventually, then I'll know that, okay, these many people in a percentile understanding are with me on a 7. So then I would know where I stand. So I don't say that marks are important at the number, but marks are important for self-awareness. And that empowerment doesn't happen in the system. Because the system only focuses on, oh, you got 90% plus. That means you're good. But good at what? Good at those 10 questions which came in the exam. That's the sad part. But overall, if I see across a grade 5 to 10 or throughout degree college of 3 years, I saw him getting that CGPA or a grade, then those are the marks that we should refer to. Our system needs to come to a cumulative score of 3 years or 5 years and then declare marks. Then that would be a lot of fun. And then formative should lead up to a good marking system, is what I feel personally is necessary for us to look at. So marks, yes, are important. Absolutely, we can't ignore that. And we will gloss over by saying that these are grades, but then they are coming from marks eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. I get what you are saying. And I mean, again, just a question which has come to my mind. Today children are scoring such high percentages, 90% and over, 98. So, I mean,
Yes.
99, and I mean, I remember, okay, for me, I'm much older. And in my
Me
time,
too.
even if I got 60%, I was considered like, wow, the queen of the building. So, what's the difference today? Why is it like that? What is the difference? I mean, just a
Uh,
question which came to my mind.
Yeah, see, what the difference today is that assessments have changed, very frankly speaking. That is the biggest difference that has happened, and that is why marks have changed. There's this thing. Earlier, it was very oral in tradition. Like if you go to Gurukul, then nobody wrote a paper. As long as you could do certain task in competency or you could recite something to the mentor, then I think you were set. But eventually, in the assessment system changed, and they have become so specific right now. Like I think there was this committee in 1929 or something, or somewhere around the 1900s. Like it moved from the Sadler committee to the Hartog committee, and that committee, talked about failure of candidates because they can't memorize or can't retain because external distractions have increased. So now the questions are shorter, they are faster, they are MCQ based, they are much different, and they're asking for lesser steps, lesser memorization, lesser retention. So when that becomes so core, then automatically the marks start rising in number. So we have to look at the assessment grid change. Your JEE is an endless list of paper one having MCQs. And that's where I start looking at that, okay, I'm looking at a certain number coming in. The NEET exam or the JEE exam, all these things have become a competitive based understanding of this much amount of time, these many questions, and choose the correct one and jump out. So nowhere are you writing an extended, a long answer to answer something. And the whole subjective part is going, it is becoming objective. So marks are going up in a scale. So not scary at all. Their brains are working in a certain way. And I think millennial brains are also wired in a certain way to process information. Attention spans are lesser. So I think marks going up is just a reflection. But then so many people are getting that 90%. So who's getting that 99.9? That becomes a question then. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is often a discussion, when the newspaper, I mean, comes and the results are out and like, how do they do it, So, but yes, you're right. It is, of course, more and more objective based that the whole system has changed. But yes, once again, you have given me clarity on that, and I'm sure, that this will be a lot of clarity to a lot of people too. So how should one prepare for exams, for assessments? What is the best way? What advice would you give to students?
See, when I look at assessment as a word, you are being assessed for certain skills and standards. Now, the first prep for assessment and the step one for assessment is to reverse integrate from the form of assessment that you're going to give. If I'm going to be assessed for running, then I need to understand how much percentage is running going to be a part of the assessment. Then I need not focus so much on the walking or the jogging or the fast walking part of it. So nowadays, exam rubrics and assessment specifications are so clear that 30% will be competency based, 20% will be MCQ, 50%, rest of the 50% will be long and short essay questions. So I need to reverse integrate from the percentage distribution of the assessment pattern and then come back to an understanding as to how am I going to prepare for this whole thing. People miss out for the part is they will prepare a lot, but they don't know what they're preparing for. They will just pick up the book and prepare for the entire exam. But I need to understand how am I going to prepare for this. That focus has to be there when they start preparing. So we need to reverse integrate from the assessment pattern. And I have successfully done this across years. I first teach them, what are you running the race for? This marathon is meant for a certain purpose. And then you reverse integrate into the skills and knowledge that you need to build for it. if you build a ton of a knowledge and that's going to be tested only for MCQs, then it becomes useless to have that large sample repetition. I need to reduce the sampling and I need to reduce to understand the specific keywords that will be there in MCQs. I might know the entire theory of relativity, but if only keywords are going to come, then it's going to be a waste for me to have prepared that way for the assessment. So one part for preparing for assessment is reverse integrating from the assessment pattern. And then once I'm aware of that, then working on the formative scores. The point is you cannot prepare for an exam in a month or 3 weeks, which I like regularly see 80% of the students that I encounter doing that, 90% of the parents doing that. Now, अभी एग्जाम नहीं है तो बस अभी थोड़ा सा आराम कर लो, मजे किए तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, कोई एग्जाम नहीं, 2 दिन बाहर जा सकते हैं. So the whole attitude is built in the system that way. Whereas, they wouldn't have to prepare 1 month before exam at all if they prepare very well through the whole other months. Exam month wouldn't exist if formative months were all the time. And that is where there's a huge backlash to this CCE pattern, this continuous comprehensive evaluation. Those tests are continuously happening through the year. So then it becomes very difficult for the parents. Exam month is never ending. It's just continuously on. But it is better to have those piecemeal chunks. So 2 ways to prepare for assessment. And I think it applies for us in life as well. Like if you go to college or the corporate, you need to understand I'm building a certain skill set. So I think if I'm going to a university abroad, the whole focus completely changes for students once they go to international universities. And that's where they realize that, oh, I have been doing this 1 month pattern or this 3 weeks pattern of jumping before the exam days. Whereas a calendar has been provided to me to understand that, oh, in these steps I need to reach a certain place. So it will sound cliche, but then we need to understand that we need to piecemeal it and reach there. But for that, I need to know what is my destination. And people who will go for trekking and expeditions on the mountains, they always do that. They will reverse integrate from the highest peak point they have to reach and then start the prep which is to be there at the base. They don't decide that at the base we need these supplies and resources. They know that where we have to reach, so till that point we have to keep the supplies ready. So I think reaching the peak is to reverse integrate from the whole thing.
That's a very good
comment.
Very good for explaining it. Thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to say to the students and parents or whoever, other teachers?
Nothing. We should stop living assessment-focused lives is what my whole understanding is. If you're entering any knowledge system, may it be education or maybe anything else, maybe a dance class for that matter, or maybe anything. I want people to understand that we are being assessed at every level. Every person is at a different level. So unless and until we don't have a percolation of the whole essence of where we are and what we are doing this whole pursuit for, then the whole purpose of assessment is lost. You will be not into the assessment mode at all if you're enjoying the whole process and actually knowing what you're working towards. So please reverse integrate from the final goal to where you are and then know how you're going to walk every step. That would be the best understanding, and enjoy the knowledge systems that we are a part of. Sadly, we are not enjoying those at all. Then it just becomes like grade 3 to 4 to, okay, college is done and now get a job. And at the job also there's no learning, and then everything starts losing its relevance eventually. That's why.
No, absolutely. You are completely right on that, And I like to think that slowly the education systems are changing, and hopefully our children, will have a better experience of learning, and they will move towards this, and that, which of course will take some time, but it will happen. I like to think that. Yeah.
We are just fingers crossed and hoping for it. See, I'm in this thing for 35 years now. So I know that how this is, and I have encountered all kinds of assessments and systems. But then, let's see. We are hoping like NEP is going to bring in those sweeping changes. And boards are responding that way. But the current generation who is going to own the NEP generation, that generation has to be empowered, I think. That would be necessary. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you very much, ma'am. It was a very, very interesting discussion. I too learned from you. So thank you so much. And we
Yes,
hope that to have you again some other time again with some other topic.
definitely. I would love to come back. So much more to discuss other than this. That is
Yes.
so. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you, Sadev. Bye.